Like all other Revit MEP objects, if a family has a connector, then it can be placed into a system, and sprinkler heads are no different. If I select one of the sprinklers, you can see that we can create a pipe from its location, or we can create a piping system. This is now prompting me to create a fire protection wet system, which is how the family has been developed. Let's give the system a name. Level 3, sprinklers. Remembering how the naming went on other systems, let's just keep our naming consistent, and we'll call this Level 3, south, sprinklers, and click on OK. I now need to edit the system and add more sprinklers to the system. A selection window should do it, and click on Finish to finish editing the system. I'll do the same for the corridor, only this time I'm just going to select all the sprinkler heads, click on Piping, and this time we'll call this Level 3, South, Corridor, Sprinklers, and click on OK. That's now created my corridor sprinkler zone. With this completed, I can now move on to the next stage of actually creating a pipe layout. Startup screen. Click on Open, browse to your Chapter 15 folder, and open the file Chapter 15, Panel Schedules. In previous exercises, we've added a panel, we've added lighting, we've created circuits, and added those circuits to a panel. Now what we want to do is create a panel schedule. If I select the panel itself, from the Contextual tab on the ribbon, we can create a panel schedule. We can choose a template or use a default template. Let's choose a template. We've got a predefined template here to a British standard, and click on OK. This gives us a panel schedule with all the loads associated with the circuits. We can see the circuit numbers and the circuit designation, as well as type of wiring and the conductors that have already been selected. There's no doubt that these templates must be predefined in your project template before starting a project. Panel schedules, like any other schedules, can be placed onto a sheet. In your project browser, scroll down to sheet E601, double-click to open, and then drag the panel schedule LPS2 onto the sheet. Depending on how you want to present these, you can have multiple schedules on a sheet, or you could have predefined sheet sizes, especially for distribution board schedules. In this exercise, we are going to use the sample MEP project located in your Common folder. If you have previously opened this file, go to your Application button and click on Sample MEP Project. Here I'm going to scroll down in my project browser and open up Level 2 HVAC plan. Scroll in to the north area of the plan, and here you can see my layout. To select an object, simply click on it. Here I've selected a return diffuser. It tells me on the options bar the flow. If I clear the selection just by selecting somewhere else in the drawing area. Here I have a supply diffuser. Note that when I hover over an object, the tooltip tells me what that object is. So there's a supply diffuser. On the options bar, it tells me that we have a flow of 110 litres a second. And in the properties palette, we're located on level 2 with an offset of 2450. There's the flow again. So if we change the flow at this point in the properties palette, it's also changed in the options bar. But what happens if I want to do this for all of the supply diffusers? Well, I can do a selection window, and a selection window is done in exactly the same way as other CAD programs, by clicking and dragging from left to right, and using a filter. If I click on filter here, I can uncheck everything apart from the air terminals. Click on OK, and I now have 3 air terminals selected, and I can change their properties. If I select a duct, the options bar tells us the width, the height, and its offset. The properties palette gives me the type and the other properties associated with that duct. Previous video, this is a continuation of the Chapter 4 exercise for starting a new Revit MEP project. If you're having problems with the exercise, you can browse to the Chapter 4 folder, open the Project Files folder, and there is a file there, Chapter 402 Linked Architecture, from where you can start. Otherwise, carry on from where we left off. Our next task is to copy monitor the levels and grids from the Architects file. As we have existing building elevations, scroll down in the project browser and open the north elevation. In this view, we can see the linked architecture file, and if I scroll in, we can see the levels that the architects created. Notice that the architect is using imperial units, while in my file I'm using metric. There is absolutely no problem in mixing units like this, unlike some other CAD systems. We can also see from these architectural levels that the architect has created 4 levels in his building where he has views attached. These levels are the one with blue level heads. The black one, parapet, has no plan views associated with it. To copy monitor the levels, go to the Collaborate tab and click on Copy Monitor. We're going to select the linked architectural file. Notice how the ribbon changes. Here we can set options, copy, we can monitor if we already have existing levels or grids, and we can set coordination settings and batch copy. These 2 tools are for using with MEP objects that the architect may have defined in his project file. For the time being, however, we're going to go with the copy command. Here I can go and select the levels, and as I click on them, notice that we may get a warning message. This one can be ignored. And select each subsequent level. Once we've finished, click on Finish on the ribbon, and if we click and drag on this circle, we can see that we now have 4 levels defined in our project. Scrolling out will give me a display that shows that this level is monitored with a level in the Architects file. The contextual part of the ribbon also shows that we have a monitor going on. Now I have my levels in place, I want to create the grids. But to do this, I really need to have floor plans in place in my model. If you remember earlier, we deleted all the floor plans and levels out of our project, so I need to create new. From the View tab, click on Plan Views, click on Floor Plan, and then select the levels we wish to create floor plans for. Click on OK. This has now created the 4 floor plans, and if I scroll down in the project browser, we'll see them located under HVAC floor plans. Open the entry-level floor plan. At this point, I'm going to scroll in until I can see the entire building. I'm going to go to the Collaborate tab, click on Copy Monitor, and repeat the process I did earlier by selecting the link, clicking on the RVT link file and click on Copy. In this view, there are quite a few building grids to copy. So on the options bar, I do have the option to do a multiple selection. Let's see how that works. I'm going to create a crossing window across my entire floor plan. This selects everything, so the first thing I need to do is click on Filter Selection. In the filter box, I'm going to only select the building grids. Click on OK. Now here's the tricky part. When copy monitoring the levels, I clicked on Finish, but with the multiple copy command, I need to click Finish twice. Once on the options bar, and the second time back on the ribbon. So Finish once. Again, at this point, I'll ignore the warning message, but what I do want to do is click Finish again. But my ribbon has changed. To click on Finish to finish this command, I need to click on the Copy Monitor tab, and now click on Finish. Let's see what's happened with the grids. If I select one of the grids and drag it out, you can see we have the same situation as we did with the levels. Exercise. Browse to the Chapter 7 folder. Open the file Chapter 7 System Browser and Zones project file. Here we have the project with our spaces and zones already created for the entire project. If I hover over them, you can see that I can select the zone and the space. The zone has properties, just as the spaces. Only this is an aggregate of all the spaces in that zone. What I would like to do, however, is name these for ease of use during the design process. To do this, we'll get an introduction into the system browser. Just like the project browser can look through the different views in the project, the system browser allows us to look at the systems that have been created for our project. From the View tab, click on User Interface and click on System Browser. The System Browser allows us to see either zones in the project or systems. We're focusing on zones. You can see here that I have a range of zones with the associated spaces. The name 55 doesn't really mean a lot to me, so what I can do here is look at the properties, and from the properties palette we can see the name. So we could call this Level 1 South External Boundary. Click on Apply, and that's now named the zone within the system browser. Let's repeat that. Let's select another zone, and here it is highlighted in the system browser. We can expand the list to see the spaces, and if I select them, the spaces are highlighted in the drawing area. So let's name this zone Level 1 South Offices. Let's go through a couple more of these. There's Zone 61. Let's call this one Level 1 Circulation. Selecting in the system browser also allows me to see it in the view, and click on Rename. Level 1 West Offices. And Level 1 West External Boundary. We'll do that with the rest of the model.